It's always, honestly.
I'm guessing there's another, I don't know, universe where that might be.
Maybe I'll just,
Well, you're first.
I'll go walk around. I haven't even looked at this. Is crazy.
We'll call the meeting to order and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge And clerk could take the roll, please.
Commissioner Look,
Here.
Commissioner Brasted,
Here.
Commissioner Kodiak,
Here.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Here.
Commissioner West,
Here.
Commissioner Gamache,
Here.
Mr. Schulte.
Here.
Next item is tax claims and abatements. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Brasted,
Aye.
Commissioner Kodiak,
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Motion carries. Then we have review of checks issued from Finance and Central Services and from Human Services. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Look. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Then we have approval of our minutes from our August 22nd County Board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Look, second by Commissioner Brasted. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Today we have two items under Chair's remarks. The first is to recognize the impact that domestic violence continues to have on our community and to proclaim October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Anoka County. Domestic violence impacts all of us. Here in Anoka County, we're working hard to educate people and raise awareness about this very important issue. But despite all the efforts of the organizations who are with us here today, there are still people being hurt. In fact, 21 people died due to domestic violence last year in Minnesota alone. We're honored to have with us today representatives from several organizations in Anoka County that provide shelter, education, and advocacy for victims of domestic violence. I'd like to invite each of them to come up and introduce themselves and say a few words. Connie, why don't you begin the conversation?
Good morning, and thank you for having me here, and for the rest of the folks who are joining me this morning. Okay, here's this thing. I'm not techie. So, Alexander House every year has an event to kick off Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and it's this year our Walk for Hope, and that's on September 30th. And I have information. You can go to our website actually to get information and to register for that matter. But I did bring some brochures and stuff. Our mission is to empower victims of domestic and sexual violence and inspire social change through education, support, and advocacy. We do this in many ways. One of the things this year, we're, as all of you know, we're celebrating our 40th anniversary in surveying the Anoka County community and beyond. So a lot of busyness going on this year. Our hope was we wouldn't need to be here 40 years, but as Commissioner Silveraja says, we're still needing the services and the work to end domestic violence. Alexander House is much more than a shelter. but obviously we have a 24-hour emergency shelter and a 24-hour helpline. We served over 550 victims through our emergency shelter services last year and took over 9,500 calls on our 24-hour helpline. We're also a first responder. We are on call for both Mercy Mercy Hospital and Unity Campus, where we provide on-site advocacy and crisis intervention for victims of both domestic and sexual violence. And last year, we served 272 victims through services at both hospital sites. We also have therapy and support group services for the women and children staying in our shelter, as well as the women and children in our community, out in the community. We have 8 support groups currently running. We served 293 victims and survivors through those services in 2016. We're also a voice for victims when they can't speak to what their needs are, or if they need us to be a liaison between them and what's going on in criminal court hearings. So we have our legal services where we provide those services. We also provide free or low-cost family law referrals. We served over 1,000 clients through those services in 2016. 500, and this is, I think you maybe heard about our lethality assessment program. And in 2016, we had 595 referrals from local law enforcement as a result of the lethality assessment program. 334 of those were considered high-risk victims. We also provide follow-up advocacy and case management services, in-home advocacy and support for families after the immediate crisis. We served 105 families through that program in 2016, and this includes not only the support services, but also financial assistance in paying for rent or emergency situations. We also started an aging services program back in June of, when we actually started providing the services was in June of 2015, where we provide also in-home support and safety planning and assistance. And we served 40 adults in 2016. That program continues to grow and the demands continue to grow. We're in the schools, we're in 6 school districts in Anoka County as a role model, looking at how teaching youth what are healthy relationships. We do one-on-one intervention support groups, and then our prevention programming, our educational services. We reached over 1,300 children, youth, and parents through our school-based one-on-one advocacy and support groups and our on-site groups at Lionel Juvenile Correctional Facility. Over 6,600 students learned about healthy relationships through our 190 classroom presentations. And we do a lot of community education and professional training, and that's really about engaging the community, and our Walk for Hope is one of those events where we can engage the community to really learn more about the issues and how they can be involved. So we do a lot of work out in the community. And last, our volunteer opportunities. We are always in need of volunteers. So if folks are interested in volunteering, please go to our website. We have a lot of information on our website about our volunteer activities, our services, events that are coming up. We have needs in every area of our organization. So we welcome volunteers to help us do the work that we're doing. And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and then, of course, our website. I hope to see you all at the Walk for Hope on September 30th, and we're hoping to have a big crowd, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Linda Wiesa, the Executive Director from The Dwelling Place. Welcome, Linda.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. The Dwelling Place is a Christian ministry providing healing and hope to women and their children who are victims of domestic abuse through supportive services and a safe place to call home. We exist to break the generational cycle of abuse through equipping and empowering women so that they can have a life of lasting freedom. Our program is a transitional housing program with supportive services and support for our families. Our families can stay 12 to 18 months. Often we actually get referrals from the Alexandra House and other shorter-term shelters. We tend to serve a population that would otherwise be homeless if they weren't with us. We are helping them acquire the necessary skills to have a sustainable income, to gain housing, and an abuse-free life. We have things like case management for one-on-one support and advocacy. We have domestic abuse and education support groups. We have Bible study and life skills classes. We encourage the women to be in school or work or volunteer if none of the other two have yet come to pass. We also have parenting support, and we use referrals for counseling, for medical and legal advocacy, and then job search and housing assistance. Often, children are victims of abuse too, or they're experiencing the trauma of watching their family disintegrate under their watchful eye. So we have a children's program that supports healing from the trauma and gives them opportunities for growth in social, emotional, and cognitive areas. Just an example of what might happen in a home. This showing you a little bit of photos of our homes. They're actually homes that have a front porch, a driveway. People, you know, the kids get off the bus and come to a house, so they don't have a stigma of going into what might be a more commercial facility. The common areas such as kitchens, living rooms, laundry are shared by the families that are living in the home, and then private bedrooms, either one or two, depending on the family size. Here's an example of our children's area, and again, we provide curricula to help them process their feelings and learn to act out their emotions in healthy ways. We also have after-school tutoring, because very often we see they're behind in school. We are extremely excited to be in Anoka County, and I'll let you know that we moved our operation, so right now we're exclusively in Anoka County, and we have been so happy with the support that's been provided through many agencies and other organizations. In fact, we have a woman who is moving out with her 2 daughters to an apartment of her own on Friday. She's been working for over 8 months, and she was able to get a rental assistance voucher so that she could afford her new home. We have an event also coming up. It's the 19th annual gala. Paths of Life is the theme. We will be at Earl Brown Heritage Center on Saturday, October 7th at 5:30. We'll have Keith Stevens as our MC. He's the afternoon guy on KTIS radio, and Point of Grace in concert. So I encourage you to look at our website. I also gave Rhonda invitations that she can share with you, but we would love to see you there.
Thank you, Linda. Now we'll move on to Rob Edwards, Executive Director of the Lee Carlson Center. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Sivaraj.
Sivaraj.
Copy, that's
Sorry.
okay.
And the rest of the Board of Commissioners. Thank you very much for inviting all of us here today to talk about our work. My name is Rob Edwards. I'm the Executive Director at Lee Carlson Center, and we've been providing services in the Anoka County, greater Anoka County community for 35 years now, 36 years actually. Our mission at Lee Carlson Center is to provide an exceptional and affordable mental health services for families, children, youth, and adults in our community. And so we do serve the entire range of ages. Serving 3 to 4 year olds, little folks that come into our clinic, little kiddos, all through the lifespan to 80 and beyond. That includes up to 4,000 clients every year. And if you count the people who come in the waiting room, who love the people, and they're bringing them to our clinic for support, that number is about 6,000 individuals from our community here in Anoka County. We do also serve the northern suburbs. We have such great services that people do drive a little ways to get to us at Lee Carlson Center. And the population that we serve is primarily 70% of that population is that Medicaid population with the Medicaid insurance. Medicaid and other insurance third-party reimbursement makes up about 65 to 70% of our overall revenues. Fundraising as a nonprofit organization makes up the rest. We have a fundraising event happening in October, and we're excited about the community support. Folks who are working hard on our committee to bring Music for the Mind together Thursday, October 19th from 5:30 to 8:30 at Bunker Hills Golf Club. And it's really going to be a great adventure with dueling pianos, providing entertainment, and all that money and support comes back to our community to help really fill the gap so that no individual slips through the cracks. We have domestic abuse programming, and it's been a program for us for about 26 years. And that service has changed, and we have continued to move towards cutting-edge best practice. It is a diagnosis-driven service. We do an assessment on folks. Many folks who come for domestic abuse services, they haven't had an assessment before. The primary way that we approach domestic abuse services is through therapy groups. Those are with 8 to 12 individuals per group. Our victims, we also serve victims and survivors and victims, both men and women. On the aggressor side, and perpetrators, both men and women also. And all the folks who witness domestic violence in a household. We also have services, and sometimes we're treating the whole family. Actually more often than not, we're treating the whole family with separate therapists and individual treatment plans for everyone. We also work at restorative parenting and restoring the bonds of family. So if someone is involved in domestic violence and as a victim or a perpetrator, and children are involved or family members are involved, we are working with them to restore the bonds that were frayed. Our philosophy: we want everyone to succeed, and we want everyone to be present and engaged in that process. So we do a lot of work to make sure that people are coming to the clinic as scheduled, and that they're getting in as soon as possible. Our open group model allows for next to no wait for folks to get into our program. They come in for an assessment within 3 to 5 days, and within the next week, they're in the group. There are no waiting lists. Our DAP model, like I said, aggressors and perpetrators, individual initial diagnostic assessment, a treatment plan is developed. The DAP program is typically a 20-week course, and in our perpetrators and aggressors course, there's a man and a woman facilitating as therapists. And creating that great dynamic. Also, a lot of individual services are available to all these folks as they need them. Survivors and victims, similarly, group model is how we approach that, but we do actually see a lot of folks that come in seeking support individually, later are referred into a group, and then maybe ongoing receive therapy services one-on-one. Our website has all the information about our programs and how to access, and we have a single point of entry at Central Intake, 763-780-3036. And if there's any questions, I'd be open to taking those. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Such great information. Next, we have Karine Zakrominski,
I'm impressed.
co-chair of the Domestic and Sexual Violence Coalition of Anoka County. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Actually, I am here more to represent the forensic nurse program based out of Mercy Hospital, the Unity campus. We all know that the consequences of intimate partner violence on long-term health have been well documented. Alina was one of the first healthcare systems in the nation to really respond because of those healthcare needs of the patients that we serve. Many of you know Marlene Jezierski, who was a longtime employee of Alina Health, and she took the the lead on this issue multiple years ago, probably 20 years ago. And through her work as the lead, she developed screening questions that we still use today when identifying patients who are experiencing violence in the home. She developed education for the healthcare system that is still used today in order to ensure that all of the nurses and the physicians that work at the Alina healthcare systems know how they can ask these questions and how they can respond to the needs of our patients. And in addition to that, she testified in front of Congress as an expert on this issue. So Alina has a long history when it comes to caring for victims who have experienced violence, whether it be sexual violence, domestic violence, or any other number of family violence issues. Well, some of these efforts, we've had quite a bit of success, but we also felt that the knowledge, the resources, and the education, the community resources that we were able to provide our patients really weren't enough to provide the whole person care that we want to give to every patient who walks through our doors. And it's particularly important, I think, when you're dealing with a population that is experiencing violence on nearly a daily basis. We already had this for patients that were experiencing sexual violence through the SANE program. Most of you are familiar with it, I would hope anyway. We've been around for 17 years. And we provide sexual assault nurse examiner services to 8 Alina sites and 2 non-Alina sites, and we have done this for a very, very long time. With further training, we wondered why we couldn't provide the same service for patients that were experiencing other types of violence. We saw this happening across the nation, however, it had not come to Minnesota. And we thought, why not us? So we went to Alina, and Alina was willing to give us a chance, and we developed a 3-month pilot program just at Mercy and Unity hospitals. 3 years later, I stand here in front of you, and we are the first full-fledged forensic nursing program in the state of Minnesota. We provide forensic nursing consults to patients experiencing sexual violence, intimate partner violence, elder abuse, child abuse, and significant other personal assaults. In 2016, we saw 553 patients, which was about a 25% increase over the previous year. This year, we have already seen close to 450 patients. And I would say that at least a third of those are patients that are experiencing intimate partner violence. We work closely with Alexandra House. We use other resources in the community in order to ensure that the care that these patients need will continue outside of the walls of the hospital. Lee Carlson Center, our mental health centers, any resource that we can possibly utilize, we use in order to ensure that patients continue to be able to deal with the experiences that they've had, and in order to minimize the long-term consequences, the long-term healthcare consequences of sexual, domestic, and other types of family violence, because we all know that is extremely expensive. We have little funding for intimate partner violence, child abuse, elder abuse, those sorts of situations. However, Alina has decided that it's more important that we provide that whole person care, and whether it's at a loss to the hospital or not. The foundation at Mercy has been extremely generous to us. Everyone before me has talked about the events that they have coming up in October. Last April, we had the Crystal Ball at Mercy Hospital, and the Fund a Need went to the Forensic Nurse Program in order for us to be able to have funds in order to provide medications for patients who can't provide their own, in order to provide equipment and education for the staffing that is not part of the budget. So Alina has really taken the lead on this initiative and has really stepped up to the plate for us. In addition to that, I'm also the co-chair of the Sexual Assault Domestic Violence Coalition in Anoka County, and I would just like to leave everybody with this, is that we are always looking for new members. We have lots of initiatives that we would like to be able to move forward on. However, we need help in order to do that. We're a small group, and we all have full-time jobs. So if you know of anyone who has a particular interest in this area, I would ask that you encourage them to contact either myself or Jess Cheney at Alexander House, and we will certainly bring them into our fold. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We are so blessed in Anoka County to have really a whole continuum of services in addressing the needs of people who have experienced sexual and domestic violence. And we just appreciate all of your hard work and all of your efforts, and would encourage folks to be sure to go and support these organizations through their fundraising events that they have coming up. Again, the Walk for Hope, starting, that will be on September 30th. And Dwelling Place has their gala on October 7th. And the Lee Carlson Center has their event on October 19th. So lots of opportunities to support some amazing organizations, and really appreciate the great work that you do as well, Corrine, and with Mercy Unity Hospitals, or Mercy Hospital Unity Campus and Mercy Campus. It's hard to make that transition. So again, really appreciate that great work and that partnership as well. And
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. Having grown up here in the community, you take some of these names for granted. And as I think about it, you take some of their services for granted. You just expect they're going to be there to do the job. But for the heart of these people and the job they do, this county would be a much sadder place. We'd all be at more funerals. We'd all be visiting more people in the hospital, and there'd be a lot more dysfunction within family lives. Now, we lament regularly about the dysfunction that is there and how we want our community to be that much tighter together, and we want to fix it all. But this is what does it. This is what helps get it there. And I can't help but think how many times I've taken it for granted that Alexander House is as close as they are, and that Lee Carlson Center does what they do, and the Dwelling Place, everybody, all their work, but they really have to have a heart for it. It's not the average person that says, hey, this is going to be my job. You really have to have been touched and affected by it. And it should open all our eyes to think harder every time you see their name, whether it's on a postcard for an event or whether it's in the newspaper, and think about the people that do it and what we can do to make their lives easier to keep our community a better place to live. It's really, it's touching to me that they're here today, that they're willing to stand up and talk about their programs, and we can take a minute or two to at least acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Additional comments? Commissioner Brassad.
Madam Chair, I was just touched in thinking about how many years that these organizations have been working. 40 years, 36 years, 19 years. We see and we've heard numbers from just maybe a last year recap. But when you think about all those years accumulated and how many people have been touched and a need met, thank you all for what you do. It's amazing. I just can't imagine our community without it.
No, you're absolutely right. And, we often say here that government can't do it all alone. It really takes that partnership of amazing people and organizations like this all working together to ensure that our community is a better place for everyone. And again, want to thank you all for your great work. And with that, I would ask my fellow commissioners to join me in supporting Resolution 2017-98, proclaiming October 2017 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Anoka County. And is there further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our second item today is to recognize Constitution Week, which is the commemoration of America's most important document and really stands as a testament to the tenacity of Americans throughout history to maintain their liberties, their freedoms, and inalienable rights. From the time of its signing, the Constitution has only changed 27 times, which includes the first 10 amendments known as the Bill of Rights. We have a special guest with us today to honor Constitution Week. Barb Thurston joins us from the Daughters of the American Revolution, Anoka chapter, and thank you, Barb, for being here.
Thank you, Commissioner Sivaraja. I know most of you, but I wanted to just piggyback one thing that's very interesting, this domestic violence, that the DAR does have a lot of women's issues, and County Attorney Palumbo gave a talk on senior abuse to our group, I think about a year ago. So we're very in tune to all this stuff too. So to get on with my presentation, the Constitution is one of the most cherished documents in our history. We all wouldn't be here speaking freely and being elected if it weren't for the Constitution. In fact, the Daughters of the American Revolution had petitioned Congress several times to make it a national observance. Finally, the resolution was adopted into U.S. Congress in August 2nd, 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And the aims of this was to help emphasize citizens' responsibilities for protecting and defending the Constitution, also to inform people of how we came about in this country, education as far as children in schools, and we do have in the state of Minnesota, Constitution Week is September 17th through the 23rd, and it is in all of our school curriculums that they have to be taught about the Constitution, which is fabulous. You're going to see displays at the public libraries. I know Rum River Library has one, Crooked Lake Library has one. We have posters, you'll see those all over town. We do get proclamations from many municipalities. I received one from the city of Anoka last week. Everybody in the whole county, we try to get someone to present at a county or at a city council meeting. So we do make people aware of this important document. The DAR has been around since the early 1900s, and in 1928 the Daughters worked on a building in Washington called Constitution Hall, and it's close. The architect of the Jefferson Memorial was commissioned to design this performing arts center known as the DAR Constitution Hall, and today it's the only structure that is erected in tribute to the Constitution. It's a building in Washington, D.C. It takes up an entire block. It looks reminiscent on one of its facades looks like the White House. So they make money to have people make TV shows. The West Wing was made there. Other different shows are made there because you can't film the White House. You can't get in there and film that. So that's how we keep the building going with money like that. It's several times now we've had very big pushes to fundraise to restore some of it, because it is an older building, and the climate in Washington is humid, so they have to, right now we're doing some big, they're called, I can't remember the name, there's little windows that are inside of it. They're like skylights, but they're all stained glass and Art Deco looking and stuff like that. So we've had, that's our latest push, is to restore some of that. The DAR has done lots of things. Our local chapter, I belong to the Anoka chapter. We meet over at the Anoka County Historical Society, and I'm a past regent. We have done, our focus is we do a lot of veterans issues. We've done visited vets' homes. We're currently collecting old CDs that you don't want anymore around your DVDs and CDs around your home, and we send those to the Veterans Housing Organization so that the vets have different movies to watch. We have an initiative where we are knitting and crocheting skull caps for veterans that no longer have any or much hair, and they get chilly, so we have that going on. We do other projects. We do fleece blankets for Project Linus, where children get little blankets, little fleece blankets when they go, maybe a hospital setting, maybe it's into Alexander House or some of these other places where they don't have any comfort, so we give them a little blanket. And we have other projects. The DAR in Minnesota, we have a state forest up by Hinckley. We have education programs that go on. We read to children during Reading Awareness Month. We also do genealogy stuff and a lot of women's issues programs. And we have every one of our programs, every month we have a program on something different. We had on conservation, we had a man come from Master Gardeners talk about butterfly gardens. We've had a lady that worked for an attorney in town, and she gave us a preview of what women need to know when there's death in their family, when their spouse dies. What do you need to know to be prepared for that before you are thrown into a situation? So we do all kinds of stuff like that. We have a Medal of Honor book that we have produced for the Medal of Honor recipients in the state of Minnesota, and it's currently for sale over at our at the History Center, and proceeds all go to vets organizations. So that's about, I mean, we do a lot of things. And they're fun. We have 60 members or so. We're growing all the time, which is unusual. You'd think it was a women's organization that has a lot of elderly people. That's not true. There are juniors. We have several juniors, and junior is under 35 years old. So to be a DAR member, you have to research a patriot back to where they aided in the Revolutionary War. Some of them were soldiers. Some of them were maybe a group of troops camped on their farm, or they had food, or they were, underground spies or something. They have to be something like that, and you have to prove each generation, which is very difficult, and the DAR is very strict on how to do that. So my patriot was a soldier in the Battle of Brandywine in Delaware. So that's where I'm coming from. And these all are different patriots that you can prove. We have some people in our chapter that have proven over 7 to 10 patriots, because as you branch out, your direct line gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So anyway, that's what I have on that. And then I wanted to also give you a quick little update. In 2026, the United States is going to be 250 years old. That's only 9 years away. So they're asking organizations, and you've probably gotten information, to help. What are you going to do to celebrate that? It's like when we did our 200th anniversary, there was lots of things, special coin and everything else. So we're asking people to get involved in that. Maybe think of some planning. Nationally, our recent past national regent, she has been on a task force from the national government to help try and figure out what are we going to do for this fabulous anniversary. So, I have a couple of questions on the Constitution. I've done this at several other places, and they're laughing. It's a little quiz, and some of these come off of when an immigrant gets tested to become a citizen. Some of these are from that. Some of them are pretty hard. I'm not going to give you the hard ones. But Rhonda did read that how many times has the Constitution been amended since 1789? She has the answer.
27.
27 times. And the first 10 amendments were called?
Bill of Rights.
All right, very good. And where was the Constitution ratified?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, Independence Hall, yes. It was called the Philadelphia State House then, Pennsylvania State House. Who called the Constitution Convention to order? Who was the one that said, we need to get a constitution? He's a famous person.
Benjamin Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin was the eldest delegate, but he was not the one. It was Alexander Hamilton. And who was what state was the first state to ratify the Constitution? It took over 3 years to get it all ratified. There was one state that did it right away. It's on their license plate. I heard it.
Okay, I'll say Delaware.
Delaware. Yes, Delaware. And what was the last state that was dragging their feet?
Do they have that on their license plate?
No, we're the slow people. It was Rhode Island.
Okay,
Rhode
Right
Island.
next door.
yeah.
Yep, yep.
Funny.
And one of the reasons that they were a little hesitant to ratify the Constitution was some of them wanted the states to have way more rights. They didn't want a big government like the king. They didn't want somebody, a dictator, ruling over them. So they were very hesitant to elect the first president, and that's why George Washington stepped in and said, I'll do it, because he was well known for his fairness and that sort of thing, so.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Barb. Great information. And just want to urge all citizens to make sure that we study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities that are part of that privilege. Join me in supporting Resolution 2017-99, proclaiming September 17th through the 23rd, 2017 as Constitution Week. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Barb. That concludes Chair's remarks, but before moving on to the committee reports, want to remind everyone today is the annual health walk, and I believe Commissioner Gamache is going to be kicking that off.
Oh, I did a video.
Oh, you did a video. Okay, that was the kickoff. All right, so noon, this will be an opportunity for folks to get away from their desks, stretch their legs, and enjoy the beautiful weather out there, and just refresh your day. So now we will move on to committee reports, beginning with Management Committee. Commissioner West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a couple action items today. Number 1A on our regular agenda is a new position. It's non-budgeted in Human Services Job Training Center. And it is for 1 FTE Senior Vocational Counselor, grade 12.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Cardiac?
All right.
Commissioner Silveraja?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And the next item is Resolution 2017-100, resolution approving the tentative agreement between the Anoka County Law Enforcement Labor Services, Inc., representing the 9/11 dispatchers for the calendar years of 2017 through 2019.
Is there an offer of Resolution 2017-100?
I'll offer it.
Resolution has been offered. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Mr. Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Kodiak.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And Madam Chair, the rest is informational.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Now we'll move on to Transportation Committee report. Commissioner Schulte.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a chair's report for you today, as we did not meet as a committee because of the Labor Day holiday last week. As the chair of the committee, I recommend approval of a purchase of service contract with HDR Consulting Group for the design, environmental review document, and engineering services for the reconstruction of Hanson Boulevard between Northdale and Main Street in the amount of $317,433 in the city of Coon Rapids.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second?
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kodiak,
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye. Motion carries.
And Madam Chair, just as a follow-up on that, the actual project number that's listed in your packet is incorrect. If you change the last two digits to 25 instead of 22,
Okay.
that would make it accurate for those that follow project numbers.
All right.
That concludes my report, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to Parks and Community Services Committee report. Commissioner Kodiak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. From our last committee meeting, there's one item that requires attention. Although John is here, I think I can almost handle that. We have had the opportunity to enjoy several granting opportunities from the Metropolitan Council. They require that we ratify or authorize these transactions. These are projects that the committee has certainly studied a long time. The county board has to act on nearly all of them. Just recount without the totals. One was with the Conservation Corps that we've used for years. One was for the funded communication outreach specialist that the county now has in the park system to to attract underserved populations. The third one is regarding the Bunker Hills Regional Park, the Bunker Beach parking lot, and other trail improvements in that system there. We talked about it with Commissioner Silveraja, repairing and reconstructing Aqua Lane, which we're pleased and excited to do, and also the large gathering stage that we're looking to attach to the current headquarters facility. Each of those are listed 1 through 5, and unless there are any questions about those, I would move it.
I'll second it. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kodiak,
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. From the information items, I made a comment about one, and once again, we once again recognize our cooperation with the University of Minnesota to create various kiosks, standing locations within our Heritage Lab system. John was so instrumental in attracting them to us originally. We had an event about a year ago where I think we introduced 4 different settings in that park system. They just completed 3 more. They're on wheels. They're movable. To move around that system. May not be fit to head down 35W, but we'll be able to use them in and around that park system and others to serve as a platform and opportunity for presentations of many kinds. We recognize with them their professor and students, and had a gathering just to introduce them to us and review them. So thank you, John, for your efforts. Very successful project. I think we won an award for the earlier project some time ago, and this may conclude the activity of building those stations, I'm guessing, but maybe not our future relationship with them and other engagements. And, Madam Chair, unless there's any further questions, I conclude my report.
Okay, then moving on to Property Records and Taxation Committee report. Commissioner Kodiak.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'll just comment that all the items were for information purposes only. I did review them briefly. Many of them are fairly straightforward and routine, so I'll just accept the fact that would conclude my report.
Okay, is there anything else to come before the county board? That meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
HRA